The only way that we could do something with the empty lots was to start gardens.
For over 30 years, Iris Brown has been a staple in the Norris Square neighborhood in West Kensington. In the 80s, she co-founded Las Parcelas, which means the parcels. That led to a series of urban gardens around her neighborhood. She did it because she saw an unfulfilled need, one Iris is still working to fix.
Do you see that in this community, food insecurity and people who need to perhaps have access to fruits and vegetables?
Of course. Of course.
The city of Philadelphia says just over 16% of residents go to bed hungry or face food insecurity. That number is most likely even higher because of the pandemic. Many of those impacted, unable to get access to or afford fresh food, are people of color.
This is purple cabbage from last year.
Iris is being proactive, growing vegetables and spices from her native Puerto Rico and incorporates African plants where her ancestors came from. But she's also keeping an eye on the future and in her own way is fighting against climate change.
You see, urban gardens like Iris's produce much needed fresh fruits and vegetables to fight food insecurity, but they also help to combat the impacts of climate change by reducing food-related carbon emissions and waste. Those lead to global heating.
A lot of people think about transportation and think about electricity generation. But the reality is there's also a significant contribution of methane from organic waste, food wastes.
Patrick McDonald is the Secretary of Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection. He says a quarter of the waste found in landfills is organic food waste. That generates the release of methane, leading to more rapid climate change.
And methane is a more potent greenhouse gas than even carbon dioxide is.
The PADEP is providing funding to some nonprofits willing to use food that would become waste.
And this is nutritious, healthy food that for otherwise, if we hadn't stepped in, would be thrown away.
Phil Abundance is one of them. The food bank helps feed the 850,000 food insecure in southern Pennsylvania and South Jersey, most of them Black and Latinx. The nonprofit's chief executive officer, Lori Jones, says as climate change impacts the food supply across the world, it has an effect here.
And so if there are fires in California, that impacts the availability of food and the price of produce.
As you can see, there's no room for food waste, but there's steps we can take right now to make a difference. For example, instead of buying a big bag of potatoes, buy the number you need. And rather than throwing away the food scraps, you can turn it into compost to use in a garden, or you can donate the waste.
You can do that here at the Temple Community Garden, which serves as a compost network in North Philadelphia. Kristen Rice works here.
We have 6 bins, and people can drop off their food scraps, and we bring in like leaves and mulch, and that turns into compost, which we can use for the bins, which is used for the produce.
That produce is free for the community. And you can follow Iris's lead and start your own garden.
You need to be creative.
Yaima Crespo, NBC10 News.